What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counter Punch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Canelo Alvarez. Get this. Canelo states, quote, "I'll fight anybody, but they need to fight each other too. They're just waiting for me because they want a good payday. I know that, but they need to fight each other, and I'll fight the winner of all of them." Those are the words of Canelo Alvarez. Let me counterpunch. Canelo Alvarez, I think, gets a lot of criticism. He gets countered by me when it's time to get countered by me. But I think he gets criticism unnecessarily. And what I mean by that is Canelo is the cash cow. Okay, he has that pot of gold. And you do see fighters, you see other channels, and you see how people like Floyd Money Mayweather makes narratives like, oh, he's afraid of David Benavidez, along with Timothy Bradley, and then Andre Ward had his things to say about him and other areas of Canelo Alvarez's career. And I've noticed that with other fighters, and I have to agree with Canelo on this one. You want, and it's like this with that's why boxing is dying to a certain degree, okay? Because it's like you have all these fighters that are lining up to fight one fucking guy. I mean, one guy. And then meanwhile, their resumes are absolute trash. Let's just be real. I mean, if you're Dimitri Andrade, if you're a Jamal Charlo, if you are, who else is in that lineup? David Benavidez. You like these guys, right? Are damn near, except for Demetrius Andrade. He's kind of like that oddball. But you have a lot of fights that could be made that haven't been made. Like the Canelo fight supposed to came to Jamal Charlo once upon a time, or, Jamal getting the WBC middleweight championship when Canelo was elevated to the franchise champion, if you guys can remember that. Well, I didn't hear him screaming, Canelo, Canelo, Canelo. I heard him happy because he got a damn belt, and he really didn't have to fight anyone necessarily for it. I didn't see him calling out Canelo at that point, but then it's people that wanted him to fight Canelo. I wanted him to fight Canelo, but then it's like, okay, what the hell are you going to do with your own career? If you're a fan of those fighters, it seems like to me you'd want those fighters to prove themselves, to show that, hey, I'm still progressing my career. That's why you guys should ride with me so I could fight Canelo, because I've taken out the trash. Okay, kind of like Terrence Crawford. When Terrence Crawford came to 147, right? He didn't sit there and wait. No, he took on the guy that upset Manny Pacquiao, even though that was a bullshit decision. But he stopped that problem. You know what I mean? He did what he's supposed to do. He didn't just stop and wait in line behind a bunch of other guys waiting to get paid, meanwhile doing the bare minimum in the division. And that's what I see. Now, Demetrius Andrade, I don't give him a shot because, him and Canelo had those words, get the fuck out of here, man. All that. And so I don't see him, but he could get in the mix if these guys decided like, hey, let's throw down. And it's nothing wrong with fighting the winner out of those. Like, hey, what you guys can do, fight each other, then I'll fight whoever is at the end. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. And I agree 100%. Like, too many people are doing that. They're taking the easy route. They're doing the Andy Ruiz. Yes, the Andy Ruiz. The Andy Ruiz just wants to sit back and wants to pick and choose who he fights. If it's too tough, he's going to fucking duck. Okay? Until he gets another Anthony Joshua, check. That type of shit they're doing. Okay, and if I'm saying it about Andy Ruiz, I got to say it about Jamal Charlo and David Benavidez. David Benavidez himself would have got the opportunity to fight Canelo if he wouldn't have lost his belt. Right? He either lost it on the scales, or I believe he lost it because of the cocaine use, but he lost it. Okay, he was the 168-pound super middleweight champion at one point. You know, the narrative is, oh, then Canelo came after he left, but I'm like, okay, well, if he goes and takes out Jamal, right, and those guys fight each other or whatnot, then there's only one guy left. Then Canelo can see, okay, these guys are fighting, so these guys are actually busy doing something versus waiting on my ass to give them a payday. So you have to look at it, the perception of that. And then if I'm those guys and I hear this come from Canelo Alvarez, I would call this bluff. I would, if I'm David Benavidez, set that shit up with Jermall Charlo, fight Caleb Plant or something like that. Because you know those guys were supposed to fight at one point. Okay, well, wonderful. Caleb Plant has fought Canelo and got knocked out, right? Well, he could redeem himself by beating Jermall Charlo if that's the possibility. Or Caleb Plant could fight David Benavidez, and and then he could redeem himself fighting him. But then it would show like, okay, that eliminates one of those guys, so Canelo don't have to be faced with fighting all these fucking guys. You can't fight everybody at one time. But then meanwhile, well, these guys are waiting for him and they're not doing anything about it. That's a bad thing. And a lot of people are doing the same shit. Like Errol Spence. Oh, I don't want to fight. I ain't fighting Terrence Crawford. It ain't on the list. It ain't on the plan. But then yet you wanted to fight Manny Pacquiao, though. So did Terrence Crawford, Okay, but Terrence Crawford was fighting whoever he could fight. It wasn't like he was just sitting around waiting for a particular fight to evolve. Okay, so that sounds like a great plan to me. And if I was those fighters, I would 100% absolutely call his bluff, get those fights set up, see what Al Heyman can do, make a tournament style, and then the best or the last will fight Canelo. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Canelo Alvarez's statements towards these particular fighters. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunching. Peace.